Alright, sorry for that interruption. Here is part two of the self concept chapter. So, we left off just at talking about how another person of another culture might feel discriminated against and affect how it would affect their self concept. Now, we'll talk about body image. Body image is how your attitude is related to your body's appearance or function. Um, we talked about earlier that physical development or maturity might affect a body image. Now, for adolescents, if they do have a negative body image, at this stage they are more likely at risk for suicidal thoughts due to that negative body image. Role performance is the way an individual perceives their ability to carry out significant roles. What are examples of changing role performance? New parent, maybe someone has been laid off, so they're no longer the breadwinner in the partnership. So self-esteem is how an individual feels about themselves, their overall self-worth. If someone's self-concept matches their ideal self, they have a greater self-esteem, and vice versa. What is a stressor? What is a stressor? A stressor is something that changes enough of one thing to cause an aggravation effect. I do believe in the 8th edition, it's page 662. There's a figure labeled 33-3. That's a great reference, so be sure to review that. Now, stressors can include physical, spiritual, emotional, sexual, familial, and sociocultural. These can all affect self-concept. Some examples of stressors, particularly for you all, would be your exams for school or working while attending school. Now, if someone can adapt easily or doesn't perceive a stressor as if the world is going to end, these are people who more than likely have a greater self-concept view, okay? Now, identity stressors affect an individual's identity. Who would be at more risk of developing an identity stressor, an adult or an adolescent? Okay. Why an adolescent? Because they go through physical and emotional changes. They're seeing things happen to their body that they're unsure of. Hormones are surging. They aren't sure how to react, or they think something may be wrong with them. Now, for adults are more likely to suffer from cultural and social stressors because of their work life. Identity confusion can occur at any stage of life, and that is when an individual does not have a clear, concise, and consistent personal identity. Body image stressors are a change in the appearance, structure, or function of the body or of a body part. An individual's perception of the change can impact the change in appearance. For example, a male might not want to get a vasectomy for fearing that it would affect his masculinity. Some other things that come into mind as far as body image stressors are pregnancy. How it makes you look, how it affects your body. What about after giving birth? Colostomies, urostomies, mastectomies, scars, amputations, burns. These can all be body image stressors, okay? Role performance stressors. Now, when we talk about role performance stressors, there's about 6 of these that we're going to go over. We have role conflict. Role conflict results when a person has to perform 2 roles at the same time, and those 2 roles are conflicting. I believe the book gives an example of a mother taking care of a teenage son and caring for elderly parents simultaneously. That would be an example of role conflict. We also have sick role. Sick role includes the expectation of society regarding how you behave when you are sick. Some people might call into work if they've got a cold. Some people might come into work when they're having appendicitis. It's just different how everyone thinks and everyone feels. Okay? Now, role ambiguity. Role ambiguity. Role ambiguity involves the individual not having a clear explanation of how to perform their role. This is common in adolescents due to the fact that they are getting older and should be taking on responsibilities, but they lack resources to be anything other than a dependent child. Role strain is role conflict and role ambiguity in one. That is role strain. Role strain is the feeling of frustration when a person does not feel they can adequately care for someone, such as a grandparent raising the grandchild. Role overload is when an individual has too many roles to keep up with. You guys as students are a great example. You're trying to be mom, dad, the student, the chauffeur, the housekeeper. That's a great example of role overload, okay? Self-esteem stressors. It's been shown that individuals with low self-esteem during adolescence grow into adults that exhibit poor health and criminal behavior. So it is very vital that if we have these adolescents in our lives now, that we help to form and shape them to have a better concept of self-esteem and self-awareness and self-concept. Now, when a patient's appearance has changed, they often look to the nurse for assurance or comfort. They're looking at you. They're seeing your expression. If a colostomy smells, you shouldn't acknowledge that it does. Oftentimes, if it's a new colostomy, the patient will apologize or state that it stinks, or they might be not as willing to let you look at it. You want to reassure them by comforting them, okay? Everyone poops. Tell them that their stoma is looking good. Tell them that their incision is healing well. Tell them that it's a good sign that there's stool in the bag, after surgery, because that means that the bowel's working. And then there are cases where colostomies can be reversed. You should never give them false hope, but, if that's been discussed with the physician and you're there, you can say that. Now, it should be page 665, box 33-5. This lists some behaviors of altered self-concept. What are coping behaviors? Coping behaviors are how the patient reacts to stressors. It could be eating more, could be eating less, it could be crying. Okay? When your patient has suffered a time in their lives of stress related to their self-concept, you need to see what resources they have. Do they have family support? Do they have children that support them? Do they have monetary support? Sometimes, the patient might have suffered a stressor that made them lose their job. Okay? So we have to take all these things into account. Now, nursing diagnoses are important when determining how to care for our patients. You want to have an understanding of any recent events in their lives and how they view themselves. Gathering all the data you can will help you with implementing care for your patient. Now, on page 667, there is a chart that I'd like for you to review. It's figure 33-5. It's planning for the patient with self-concept issues. And if you all if these pages aren't correct or the boxes aren't correct, I will see you Thursday, so I will be able to give you copies of these boxes, okay? But look in your chapters for me. It should be 8th edition, and all these pages should be correct. We'll be moving on to urinary elimination. information in the next segment.